Well, hello everyone. I appreciate you guys jumping on here tonight. And tonight we're going to be talking some February fishing. This is late winter time, and I just wanted to kind of go over a few things that I have been seeing out on the water. I have been out on the water the last couple of weeks, and I have been skunked. So, I was actually talking to a gentleman out on the landing one day. I think his name was Tim. And, Tim was saying, man, you catch so much fish. I really, can you give me any pointers and stuff like that? And I had to stop. I was like, Tim, listen, man, I said, I don't catch fish all the time that I come out here. It is a misnomer that YouTubers go out and they just slaughter fish. They catch fish all the time. No, that's not how it works. If I was catching fish every time that I was going out on the water, I would quit my day job and I would be a pro right now. So I am not catching fish. It's been tough. February's been really tough. The last couple of times I've been out, I have been skunked. So last week I went out, I was fishing with a buddy of mine, and we were seeing all the signs that fish should be there. I was seeing a lot of white birds, a lot of herons and terns up on the shoreline. I was actually seeing some bait. I was seeing some small shrimp and some grass minnows that were working along some oyster beds. And hey, TNA Fishing, appreciate you jumping on there. And so I was seeing some bait up around some oyster bars, and I was like, man, the fish have got to be here. So I was casting up around these oyster bars, little creek mouths, around birds, and I could not find the fish. The one variable that I have been noticing that the last couple of times I've been out and I was skunked was water temperature. So I was heading out in the morning and the water temperature was about 48 degrees. And usually fish are pretty lethargic, especially here in South Carolina, when the water temperature is below 50. So the water temperature started out about 48 degrees. And by the time I got off the water about 4 or 5 hours later, it was only 50 degrees. And that happened the last couple of times. So the weather leading up to those last couple fishing trips, it has been lows in the 30s and highs in the 50s. Now, the last couple of days, it has changed a little bit. It has been warming up a little bit today and yesterday. It's been getting up into the 60s, lows in the 40s. And Saturday, a cold front blows through, and then the temperatures drop back down again. So water temperature has played a huge role in catching fish. At least it has been for me. I have not been able to find the fish. Now, as you guys know, I use artificial lures. And during the February and early in the middle part of winter, artificials is definitely a lot harder to catch fish, in my opinion. I had a gentleman reach out to me and left a comment on my Facebook page and said, hey, listen, I've been trying to catch some fish. Do you have any tips? And honestly, if you're going out on the weekends or you're just down here in the Myrtle Beach area or South Carolina and you're going out, my recommendation would be pick up some live bait, especially shrimp. You can pick up shrimp at any of your local tackle stores right now. If you're here in the Murrells Inlet area, Perry's Bait and Tackle and Inlet Rocks has shrimp right now. And if you put the shrimp under a floating cork or a popping cork and let that shrimp just kind of drift with the current, you should be able to pick up fish. If you're not going to use a cork, I would put it on a jig head and get your shrimp on the bottom. Guys, that is going to be your best way to find fish right now is live bait. I can't say that you're not going to be able to catch them on artificial lures because you can. work them low and slow. Every time I go out, I know, especially during the winter time, when I am videoing, low and slow is the way to go. It just is. These fish are lethargic. When the water temperature gets that cold, they don't move around. They're not going to chase down a meal because they don't want to burn up the calories that they just ate because they're cold. They're going to move around only to areas where they feel more comfortable. Maybe in a wind protected area where the sun has been shining and heating up that water. So that's where these fish are going to be, and that's where they're going to move. During the wintertime, you're definitely going to have to cover ground in the inlets and these marshes. You're just going to have to keep moving until you find the fish. But usually, when you find the fish, they're schooled up, because these fish, when they definitely school up, especially with redfish, that's how they can conserve some heat. They find these low-lying areas, especially on muddy bottoms, and that's where they're going to be hanging out. So usually, when you find fish, you can catch fish. Stay in that area and work it pretty hard. So low and slow with your artificials, and try to find those protected areas that you want to be in. When it's a cold, windy day, where do you usually go? You usually go out of the wind where the sun is shining, and these fish are going to act the same way. There is a guy, his name is Matt Parrish. If you guys don't listen to the Empty Stringers podcast, give him a listen. He's down in Texas, but he has some really good tips. And I've been listening to him over the last month. So, guys, if you want somebody to listen to, Matt Parrish is really good. I don't know Matt at all. I've texted him a couple of different times, and we've chatted a little bit. But he's very knowledgeable, very knowledgeable. So, guys, if you have any questions, put them down into the chat box, and I'll get to them. Something fishy? Hey, it looks like snowy Michigan. Ooh, man. So tell me, do you ice fish? I grew up in Illinois. That was 30 some odd years ago. And I only ice fished a couple different times because it was brutal for me. I usually, I didn't like to ice fish. Of course, we didn't have the shanties that I think that you guys up there in Michigan and Minnesota usually have. So, we just went out and sat on a 5-gallon bucket and let the wind cut through us, and it was pretty brutal. Jeff and Tootsie Camping. Hey, how you guys doing? Can't wait to be back in Merle's Inlet. Oh, okay. When are you guys going to come down to Merle's Inlet? Hopefully pretty soon. Cheers. Yeah, crappie fishing on the ice. Yep. Okay, cool, man. I love it. 4th of July weekend. So Jeff and Tootsie are going to be down the 4th of July weekend. That's going to be fantastic. If you guys are going to be out fishing, I mean, the middle of summer, everything is going to be flip-flopped. So everything that I'm talking about right now, just flip everything. It's going to be total opposite. You're going to want to look for cooler water and moving water, because as the water heats up in the summer, the oxygen levels go down. So these fish are going to be looking for moving water because that's where the water is oxygenated. So anything with current, little eddies where the water is swirling around, there's a really good areas. As the tide is moving in and out these creek mouths, target all those creek mouths, and you guys ought to have some pretty good success. But yeah, that's like I said, everything that we're talking about right now during the wintertime, flop that for 4th of July weekend. You guys will do great. But so hey, Russell Decker just jumped on. Hey, appreciate you jumping on again. I know you jumped on last weekend too. So I did put out a video in January, and in January I got a slam. It was the first time that I was out. I had just been getting over the flu, just like everybody else was over the Christmas holiday. But when I went out, the difference, and I was catching fish that day. I think I caught a couple of reds, couple of flounder, a trout. but the water temperature was in the upper 50s. And by the time I got off the water, it was 61 degrees. These fish are moving and they are feeding when the water temperature is that warm. So that's why I was catching fish that day. Coming out of December and into January, the weather was very nice. It was very mild. It was into the 60s almost every day. The day I was out, it actually hit 73 degrees and it was beautiful outside. I was actually layered up. I had to peel some layers off as I was fishing throughout the day. But that was the biggest change from my last couple of outings to back in January was water temperature. I think it plays a huge role. Now, I have heard from a couple of guides that they have been catching fish out in Murrells Inlet. They have been using live shrimp, like I talked about before, and they are going out towards the jetties. Now, the jetties are that water temperature is going to be a little bit more stable because of the ocean water. Way back into Murrells Inlet, you're going to get those big fluctuations of water temperature because right now you get some negative tides. It's going to pull all that water out. All that water is going to come back in. So if you want more consistent water temperatures, when you guys are down here fishing during the winter time, head towards the jetties. So the closer to the jetties and closer to the ocean you can get, the more success that you're going to have because the temperature is going to be more stable. Right now, I actually checked the temperature today, and out in the ocean, right outside of Murrells Inlet, was 52 degrees. And the ocean, is not going to fluctuate that much. Okay. But like I said, back up into the marshes, it is going to fluctuate. So, Ted, good to see you. Currently vacationing in Murrells Inlet. Ted, have you been out on the water? Have you tried to do any fishing? Let me know and send something down into the comments. Sorry, guys. I'm drinking a beer tonight because it's been a long day. So, been coming down for, looks like Jeff and Tootsie's been coming down. Do I read that right? 46 years? Oh, that's fantastic. Fantastic. So, Ted looks like he's only been surf fishing, but he did bring his kayak along. Good. Get out there and drop your kayak in. If you have been out into the inlet at all, the only advice that I can give is really watch the wind. Especially this time of the year, the wind can really blow up. I am looking at getting out onto the water on Saturday. And right now they're already calling for like 12, 13 mile an hour winds at 7:00 in the morning. And usually I won't get out on the water if it hits 15, 16 miles an hour. It's too hard to control the kayak. You get blown around, the waves, the chop, and it's just not real fun. So, Russell said, have you paddled out to the jetty? If so, how long does it take for me to get there? Yes, I have made the trip out to the jetties a couple of different times. And usually when I do that, the tide is going out. So I'm letting the tide also kind of push me out with that. So from the Oyster Recycling Center out to the jetties, it takes me about 20 minutes. And that is, kind of putting my head down and just, pedaling right along and getting right out there and with the tide going out. It's about 20 minutes. And usually I won't fight the current going to the jetties because the closer you get to the jetties, as it narrows down and that current is coming in, it is pretty brutal for a kayak to get, maneuvered around in there. So I usually wait for and time the tides to go out and then come back in. But it's usually about 20 minutes to get out that way. The one thing that you do have to watch out for, again, in Murrells Inlet, There is only one way in, one way out of Murrells Inlet. So all the boat traffic goes in and out of there. So just be careful. You know, a lot of these boats, they won't slow down for you. I've actually been called a speed bump before. So, you know, just, you know, be careful out there and really watch yourself and stay off to the side if you guys are going to go out towards the jetties. But the jetty fishing is good right now. I don't think I completed my thought. I have been hearing some, you know, some guides going out towards the jetties, and they are catching fish on a very consistent basis out there with live shrimp. So if you get out that way. Cliff, good to see you. Cliff asks, what about fishing drains on the outgoing tide as the warmer water leaves the flats? Yes. So those are going to be some of the first places that I look. The flats, as they warm up during the day and then the tide starts to push back out again, yes, if the fish did move up on those flats, they will start pulling back out again. Those are the first places that I look. Matter of fact, the last time that I was out, which was a week ago, those were the areas that I was looking for. Again, the water temperature was that 48 to 50 degrees, but I was checking all the creek mouths and little drains, all the little drains off of any type of creeks and Weston Flats. So if you know where Weston Flats is, I was checking all of those drains also. I just wasn't picking anything up. I don't think the fish were up on the flats that day because it was so cold. I think they were staying into the deeper parts of the channels and the deeper parts of the creeks that day. But yes, absolutely, you're right. When the water is coming off those flats, those are great places to look. Absolutely. Russell also asked, I was wondering about the tide flow there too. Okay, so in the Carolinas, the tide is pretty swift. We can get tide fluctuations where we can get almost 6 feet of water to drop out of the marsh system, and that's pretty severe. In Florida, Texas, places like that, you may get a foot of water. So when the tide starts to go out, yes, you know, you can average between 4 and 6 feet of a tide drop or water fluctuation coming out of the marsh. So just check your tide charts and it'll show you how much water will actually drop out of the marsh. Matter of fact, I will pull up my tide chart right now and I'll show you what it's doing. So in Austin Creek, I don't know if that is going to show it. It's not going to show. Oh, there we go. So you can see the high tide was at about 4 feet of water and it was going down to almost a negative tide. So we were losing 4 feet of water today out of Austin Creek. So yeah, you've got to watch your tidal flows too. Especially when you're kayak fishing, wind and tides, you want to make them your friend. Trust me, I have been fighting tides and wind going back to the launch before, and it's not fun. I have absolutely worn myself out. See, I'm trying to scan back up here to see if I missed any more questions. Drew, appreciate you jumping on. Awesome videos. I filmed fishing videos in Murrells Inlet for FIC. Oh, for the Murrells Inlet Fishing Charter guys. Oh, great. Great. Hey, love those guys. I've been on their charters. Jason Burton is fantastic. I've been out with Chris Regan multiple times. I've taken my family out, and Chris has been our guide. Those guys are fantastic. I'm not affiliated with them at all, but I tell you what, guys, if you want to come down, you want a good charter, check out Murrells Inlet Fishing Charters. Get up with Jason Burton and the guys. They'll put you on the fish. They're out there every day. They can take you out to the jetties, near shore, offshore, anything that you guys want to do. So go out there and check those guys out. Absolutely. Any recommendation for spots for good fishing around Isle of Palms? Okay, so yeah, I go down to Charleston. Matter of fact, I was going to go down to Charleston this weekend, but again, with the wind being 13 to 15 miles an hour, I wasn't going to drive 2 hours and have to turn back around. But if you go to Sullivan's Island and you can put in at Station 26, and you can go back into those creeks and go towards Breach Inlet. And all of those creeks around Station 26 is fantastic. And then also Station 19 is another kayak landing. And all of those creeks and docks, and there's a flat over there also, which is fantastic. A couple of years ago, I fished a tournament, and on that flat, I caught a 26-inch redfish on topwater. The tide was dumping out, and I picked up a little wake bait, and I worked it right along some grass, and this redfish just absolutely nailed it, and the fight was on, and it was fantastic. So, yeah, Station 26 landing, which is a kayak landing, and Station 19, all down there at Isle of the Palms, is great. And if you go towards Allendale, just a little bit north of Island of the Palms, then you have Garris Landing. And that opens up a whole nother world of docks and flats over that way too, which is fantastic. Yeah, so check all that out if you're down there in the Charleston area. Absolutely. Jeff, did you see all the bait balls last year, the 4th of July weekend? I got a video of them. Yeah, so that happens every year. The jelly balls come in every year. And matter of fact, I think it was Jason Burton who uses those jelly balls for bait for spade fish. I think it was Jason saying that. And so, yeah, they'll cut chunks off of those bait balls and use them. They'll go offshore and catch spade fish. And yeah, so at least they're good for something and not just to dirty up the beaches. Cliff says, I prefer the outgoing tide as most others seem to, but sometimes you can't always fish the outgoing. Any tips and clues for fishing high tides or mid tides? Yes. So high tides is when I work myself up onto the flats. So these flats that are only about 3 feet deep or 4 feet deep, and they only get that much water when it's high tide, that's when I work myself up onto the flats. So in Merle's Inlet, Weston Flats is really good. And up on the north end, there's some little flat and grass flats areas up in there too that, you guys definitely want to go check out. But when the tide is high, you can get onto those flats. And if it's a flood tide, I know that I push my kayak up into the grass. So into the grass areas, it may only be about a foot or two, but those redfish will push up in there and start to feed on the little fiddler crab where it's usually high and dry and just mud. So if you can push into the grass and find these open areas that usually are not flooded, you can find fish. Last year, this was down in Charleston on the Uppawando River. There was a big flood tide, and I got up into a grass area, and there was a tailing red up there, and I threw a little voodoo shrimp at him, and I put it right on his nose. I saw him come right at it and then just cut right away from it. So, but yeah, if you can get up onto those flooded grass areas and then the flats, yes, you should have some success. Absolutely. Ted asked, how about the Waccamaw River fishing? Right now, I don't know too much about the Waccamaw. I've heard a couple of little things about some crappie fishing, but I think it's still a little bit early. I know some guys are catching some bowfin if you can find them. they have been running around and doing a lot of searching, but a guy in the PD Kayak Association website said that once he found some bowfin, it was just game on. It was like one after another. And if you guys don't know what a bowfin is or mudfish, go look them up. Matter of fact, I have a video where I started out my video by catching a bowfin. Those things are crazy. They're awesome to catch. Waccamaw River. The new kayak you have is awesome. Oh, I appreciate that. I love the kayak. I love the Hoodoo, even though I have left the Hoodoo Pro staff. That has nothing to do with their product. I love the kayak. I think it's absolutely fantastic. And honestly, for the price point where it's at, I don't think you can beat it. I mean, it's $1,600. And that is all in, and that was with the pedal drive. But I am starting to hear that the pedal drive they have discontinued on the Impulse 120. You can still get the pedal drive on their new Tempest. They have a 3rd generation Tempest now, and it looks really awesome. So, guys, if you don't know anything about Hoodoo Sports, go over and check them out. I'm just not a pro staff anymore, but I still love their products. No one has shrimp to use, minnows. Yeah, go ahead and use any type of live bait that you can get. Yeah, so I know that, a week or two ago, Inlet Rocks had shrimp, and I think the word got out pretty quickly that they had shrimp, and they probably sold out. But yeah, if they have minnows, if they have finger mullet, gosh, I'm trying to think, Menhaden. Fantastic right now, because I think the Menhaden are starting to move in. So yeah, you can try that too. And I'm also seeing no fiddler crabs. Yeah. So this is sheep's head season too. A lot of guys are doing some sheep's head fishing, and fiddler crabs are their main diet. If you can find them, jump on them, because they're hard to get. Now at low tide, go out and pluck those fiddler crabs off the mud. There's a guy named Christian. He's got a YouTube channel. It's called Make Time for Fishing. He is fantastic. Check out some of his videos. He does a lot of sheep's head fishing, and he gets his own fiddler crabs. And he also uses fresh oyster for sheep's head. He uses a little nylon pouch, and it's really cool. So check him out too. If you guys want to know what I'm sipping on here, it's called Paratrooper. It's from a little brewery up in Rock Hill, South Carolina. It's called Dust Off Brewery. It's veteran owned, operated. I love it. I usually am drinking a golden ale from Charleston Brewing. I love their products down there. But yeah, I'm a microbrew guy. So. Sorry about that. I'm trying to scan through some more of the comments here, but yeah, guys, I really wanted to keep this to about a half hour. If you guys have any more questions, go ahead and throw them up into the chat box, and, we'll start to, wrap this up a little bit. But I wanted to kind of wrap it up by just kind of letting you guys know what I'm going to be kind of doing this year. So I want to get into a few more tournaments. I actually want to do some bass tournaments. I haven't done a bass tournament in a couple of years now. And so I think my goal is to do 3 bass tournaments this year and 3 saltwater tournaments, if I can find them. It's very unfortunate that in South Carolina, or really in North or South Carolina, there aren't many kayak saltwater tournaments. They're very hard to come by. So that is my goal, is to fish really 6 tournaments, 3 bass and 3 saltwater. I want to do a little bit more bass fishing. For some reason, I'm starting to get that little bit of an itch and to catch some ditch pickles. So somebody asked me. Oh, here they are over here. Somebody asked me about those. Those are my father-in-law's, and they moved from Florida, and they didn't really want to make the move. And I was like, yeah, I'll go ahead and I'll take those. Those things are pretty cool. So, but yeah, I've been getting the itch to do a little bit of bass fishing. So, you may see a couple of bass videos kind of sprinkled in amongst the inshore stuff and the saltwater. I'm still a saltwater guy. I love it. That's never going to change. So, but every once in a while, I still love to bass fish and pitch around those docks. So, I'm going to be making some trips over to Lake Moultrie and the Santee Cooper lake over there, and maybe even Lake Murray up around Columbia, and see what we can do. So, Russell, I'll be doing a show this weekend. I'm going to look at the hoodoo there. So, Russell, are you in Texas? Are you in the Houston area? Because I think the Houston fishing show is going on. I know Hoodoo has a booth up there. So, yeah, that's pretty cool. You'll probably see Chris Harbinger. He's the owner. He'll probably be there at the booth. Let him know that you talked to me, and Chris knows me. We've talked several times. He's a cool guy. And yeah, go over there and check out the Hoodoo kayaks. Yeah, pretty cool. That's awesome. So, guys, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. I really do appreciate you guys jumping on. I think I'm going to go ahead and just make this a monthly deal. So on March 15th at 8 o'clock, I'm going to go ahead and I'll be on here. And, if nobody jumps on, then I'm just going to sit here and talk to myself, because I'm my own best audience. And I'll probably have maybe a different beer this time. But guys, I really do appreciate each and every one of you. Appreciate you jumping on. And if you have any other questions, and you can always reach me on Instagram, my Facebook page. You guys can message me. Of course, the comments page of the YouTube channel, you guys can reach out there. I do answer all the questions. If I miss a question, I apologize. I try to get to everything, but my goal is to answer all the questions. So, guys, I really appreciate you, and I will see you on the next video or next month. You guys have a great night.